And we have, as a guest here, is Rae Copitka.
And she's on the phone from Roseburg.
Yeah, and she's with the American Association of Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers. Is that correct, Rae? Or
well, it's actually
No, it's National Constitutional Sheriffs Association.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
okay.
the website is ncsa1, the number 1.org, ncsa1.org, and pretty intense as far as what your mission is. Talking about the National Constitutional Sheriffs Association, intended by the founders, legitimate constitutional peace officers, educate members in historic and lawful authority of the Sheriff's Office and the oath they make to the Constitution of the United States and the free and independent state in which they serve in order to promote, protect, and maintain individual freedoms and liberties. So, how long have you had this organization?
We've had it up and running for a little over a year now.
Okay.
And we've been working with several of these sheriffs for going on 3 years.
So what's the driving force? Is there? Do you feel that there's an attack on the office of the sheriff, whether state or national?
Absolutely. You have, in the East, they're dismembering the sheriff's offices left and right through legislation. Delaware, for instance, they've been stripped of their arrest authority. Connecticut no longer has executive representative government for the people. They have state marshals and state police. Pennsylvania is also under attack, and they've been stripped of a lot of their powers. And then here in the West, they're killing us through this whole land mismanagement issue and budget cuts. The majority of our sheriffs over here are working in conditions that are actually life-threatening.
They are life-threatening. We've talked about Josephine County. Can't even imagine Sheriff Gil
made
Gilbertson.
national news with that one. Yeah, so.
I mean, you can't even imagine that he's operating on a daily basis with no backup practically. I think he has, 2 deputies that are full and then a third on call.
And that's going to be cut again because of the lack of budget.
Yeah, it's just an oddity to me, and quite frankly, can't believe that county's in such disarray over law enforcement, essential services.
Right. Well, it's a dichotomy of it's a disparity of tax base issues from the 36 counties. They're all different. And they're all in varying degrees. For instance, in Josephine County, what is it, 58 cents a thousand? And a similar situation in Curry County. It might be a little higher, but that's not a big enough tax base to even run the jail by itself. So at some point, even with or without the timber receipts, which are valuable, and we've been trying to work on that, there's a proposal, as you know, to segregate 50% of the BLM lands to turn it back to the state. And we're running into some difficulty with Senator Wyden on that. But anyway, yeah. But go ahead, Rae. Tell us more about what you guys are doing.
Well, one of the things that we're focusing on here in the West is to educate the county commissioners as to their authority and jurisdiction. And there was a very good white paper that was written on it by the Association of Oregon Counties. And it's a very simple process. The counties write an emergency ordinance based on travel management, land management, Endangered Species Act, serve it on the appropriate people, take back control of the land within their county boundaries, and they work it under the current laws, acts, and regulations. They don't change anything. They just do what's already on the books. The problem is twofold. Number one, you have the Endangered Species. Number two, you have the Fair Access Justice Act, and they're able to sue under that and make a lot of money doing so when the feds are in control. But when the counties take back the jurisdiction and the management, they lose that ability. So it basically cuts the lawsuits. And the Ninth Circuit just ruled, too, that the sue and settle tactic, out the window. They're done. So there are a lot of things that are starting to lean our way. The head of the U.S. House Natural Resources Committee even came out and said, look, this has got to go back to local management. Federal management is not working. You all need to take back control. And for some reason, they don't understand their authority and jurisdiction. which is exactly what the premise of our conference is in August.
Mm-hmm.
Right. You have a conference down in Reno. Was that the 5th and 6th for all sheriffs, commissioners, supervisors, and elected officials, law enforcement attorneys, and that kind of thing. So we could talk more about that. We have a break coming up, but what's interesting is Jackson County, there was issues with county versus state. You know, CW, you'd be perfect on that as far as taking back the county lands and trying to segregate state law. I mean, Jack Walker was on the commissioner board and tried that, but it didn't really have
I'm not sure.
legs.
Was it about land use planning? I was
talking about.
I think that was about land use planning.
Possibly the timber, the roads, taking back some of the timber and things like that. And it was
that was on the ONC lands, and there was a proposal to try to figure out a way to have more control over the roads on BLM lands and so forth.
I think it was land use.
Yeah, we've paid 50% of the costs on maintaining those for years and years and years. So, we're going to take a real quick break, Ray. So stay on. Well, could you stay on with us here a little bit more?
Sure.
Okay. We'll be right back right after these messages.
Yeah, it's amazing to know that the office of the sheriff is the highest elected executive official
at the county level.
At the county level. Yeah. Exactly.
No, in the nation.
All right, yeah.
Well, the office of the sheriff.
Yeah, right.
Office of the sheriff, yeah. Interesting that they downplay that. Of course, Sheriff Mike Winters has always been stalwart here.
Yeah, the eastern sheriffs are far different bailiwick than the western sheriffs. So, anyway, we can talk about that when we come back from the break. So,
all right, Miss Rae, hold on a second. We've got Miss Rae Copitka with the National Constitutional Sheriffs Association on the phone with us right now. We've got way more topics to discuss, so stay tuned.
We've got
Rae Copitka on.
Rae Copitka on, and Ray, pleasure to have you with us. And you're talking about some of the things your organization is attempting to do. And tell us about what transpired in New Mexico or Arizona, Apache County.
Apache County, Arizona. Right?
Okay, tell us about that.
Well, Apache County, Arizona, they did basically what I said earlier. They wrote an emergency ordinance and resolution regarding the Travel Management Plan, Land Management, and recently Endangered Species Act. When they did this, a little over, or right about 2 years ago, not quite, they then took those documents and they served them on the proper individuals all the way from the county level up to Washington. And they took over the jurisdiction of the lands within their county's borders. Now, they have a vast amount of problems in their county because they deal with 3 reservations, federal lands, state lands, and private lands. So a lot more complicated than what we have here. And what they have been able to do is they've worked 48,000 acres. They've opened 5 new mills running 2 shifts. 1 high-speed mill, Vaughan Brothers, came down from Washington and set up shop. They're running 100,000 board feet a day. Most of what they're working is just getting the forest cleared out, cleaned up. They're supporting 2 value-added wood products companies. They've put hundreds back to work, and this is just the beginning. They have plans to work almost 200,000 acres over the next 3 to 4 years.
Now, related to timber, you said they're cleaning up things, but are they able to get to any of the timber that they want? Do they have?
Well, I think isn't it salvage logging at this point? Aren't they just sort of going in and cleaning up burnt and dead timber that's been sort of laying around?
Only currently are they working on the Wall of Fire, but like I say, they've got over 200,000 acres under project.
Mm-hmm. So they have authority that they can go back in and do that. Now, did the government, this federal, sign off on that?
Yeah.
They don't have any choice.
Ah, okay.
It's an issue of jurisdiction and authority, and the federal government is currently in breach of contract. And that's why I say if the Oregon counties did this, they're not breaking any laws. They're enforcing the laws on the books.
Right. Interesting. Okay. And tell our listeners again what that base law is. You mentioned
you have ONC, you have FLIPMA, and you have several others that dictate how the forests are supposed to be managed.
Right.
And the federal government's not able to do that because they're constantly being threatened with lawsuits. Every U.S. Forest Service office has at least 3 to as many as 12 plans shelved with NEPAs that they could be working, but they're not because of threat of lawsuit. And when the county takes back the jurisdiction, the money goes out the window because the environmentalists, they don't prosper from suing.
Right.
So the county acts as that buffer and insulator, and that's where the people come in. Business owners and the general public have got to start putting pressure on their county commissioners. They don't understand their authority and jurisdiction. Most of them shouldn't even be holding office because they lack the knowledge and ability to conduct their office in a manner that's conducive to their oath.
Well, and studying county law is very difficult.
You know, this Association of Oregon Counties white paper is very succinct. It's 26 pages. It was developed for that, and I have yet to find a commissioner who's even read it.
What's the name of it? It's the ONC Counties white paper?
No, it's the Association of Oregon Counties
AOC.
white paper.
Mm-hmm. And how long? When did that white paper come out? How many?
2005, I believe.
Yeah, right. And well, go ahead.
Kind of speechless.
Yeah.
Kind of speechless, actually. So, well, and here's the thing: what that white paper basically does is talks about county law, but now does it illustrate or how it can be enforced?
Absolutely. It talks about the authority and jurisdiction of the counties. It cites case law. It cites situations where counties have taken back control in various areas and where their jurisdiction came from. It's very, very informative.
Now, is it downloadable? Can we get a PDF of it?
Sure,
okay.
we can get it from AOC.
Okay.
Well, you can just go on and Google. It's online. Just do Association of Oregon Counties or AOC white paper, and it'll come up. It's in a PDF.
Well, you know, Ray, have you ever been to any of the AOC meetings where all they discuss at length the natural resource issues in their counties? I mean, there's a number of committees and I know commissioners have been working hard and long. The proposal for the ONC was 4 years in the making, and that's now got legs to transfer ONC lands to a trust being managed by basically the state and counties. So, which I think it's a scathing indictment against all the county commissioners that they don't know their authority, because I can tell you from our practices and what we've been fighting over the course of, and I just left the county commissioner's job, so we have spent every dollar we could challenging the federal government in so many ways, and I tell you what, it's huge. I was watching last night the Senate Committee on Natural Resources and Interior, and Alaska, Idaho, Montana, New Mexico, they're all having the same problems with the federal government, and then they're not getting anything done. 10 years just in waiting to transfer land. 10 years in Alaska just to transfer lands that were designated for the Native Americans. They can't get that done. So it's a problem everywhere. So anyway.
It is. It's a huge problem across the West, and the American Lands Council is making headway. Governor Herbert out of Utah, who's the head of the Western Governors Association, just testified also.
Right.
We have court cases that are coming out now. The Ninth Circuit, like I said, they stopped the sue and settle tactics. The Hague ruling came out. They found fraud and collusion between the Department of Wildlife and the BLM and the U.S. Forest Service and everything else. And the Ninth Circuit has been very good about ruling in the favor of private property and reasonable land management if the cases have been presented properly. And the Hague case is a big one right now. There have been other wins through Pacific Legal Foundation that are coming along, and these county commissioners need to stand up, take notice, start reading the law, and start understanding what that means as far as what they can do in each one of their counties.
Well, you wonder if it's just buried in rhetoric, even so much that the county council can even understand it. Because don't you have that? I mean, ultimately, the commissioners lean toward legal issues for the county council.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I would
They're all
actually...
indoctrinated into it. I mean, here we've got Doug Robertson. He's been doing the O&C stuff for almost 30 years. Still no headway, still doesn't understand it. We've taken all kinds of documentation and case law, et cetera. And, you get so used to doing something a certain way, and you believe what people tell you, and they present you just enough to look legitimate. But when you don't do your own due diligence and really dig into it, there's no way that you can understand the full picture. It's like this pilot project that we have going on here with Josephine Jackson and Douglas. It's a taking, pure and simple. It's not a reorganization. It's not to better things. It's a taking.
I don't understand the taking. What do you mean by that?
It's federal. It's right now. It's designated federal land. So I'm not sure how you mean it's a taking. Could you explain that?
With the reorganization that they're trying to do, and what they're doing with mineral-rich soils, with agriculture, with the residential, with the farming, et cetera, the reorganization of it is going to be detrimental to those of us in the West, okay? And there are various levels that they're doing this at. And because of the checkerboard pattern, they're trying to consolidate the lands into larger groups and areas to, quote, make it easier to manage. It has nothing to do with making it easier to manage. It has everything to do with controlling the land and the natural resources.
One of the local foresters had said this is a okay plan. It seems to be working because it's based off of the two... Oh, shucks. What is it?
There's like 3 or 4 pilot projects.
Right, but they seem to be overall too
Johnson
small.
And Franklin.
Thank you, Johnson and Franklin.
The landscape projects are too small to really show any tangible results. And that's part of what was wrong with the initial pilot projects, or what they wound up doing. It was originally supposed to be a landscape of 300,000 acres over the course of time, and then the willowed it down to hardly anything. So it's marginally successful in relationship to, first of all, providing wood products, and then the other thing is to cleaning up the forests, which are overgrown and fire prone. So I have to take exception with you. Knowing Doug Robertson as well as and how hard he's been trying, and they've been working with, and they have two attorneys and 4 lobbyists working diligently trying to get around many aspects of the law. So this proposal is far more extensive, and it's the one that everybody seems to get behind, and including lots of citizens. So, but I don't think they're as ignorant as you would like to pretend them to be, but that's your view, and I understand that. So
yeah, it's not ignorance; it's misinformation and not being informed. It's not taking it all the way. And if you look at the American Land Council stuff and what Utah has done in Utah's white paper, they've had no repercussions there. They're working with their counties to get them moving and get them working. Idaho is involved, New Mexico is involved, and the Apache County Plan is going to be presented to the National Association of Counties to make this a nationwide project. So this is definitely a viable situation.
Yeah. Well, that's really cool. I mean, I guess I'd like to, number one, find out why the disconnect from the AOC white paper from 2005 you're talking about that the attorneys can't even make sense of, because here's what I'm saying: if they can't find the teeth to stand in court in front of a judge, then of course you can't expect commissioners to, because they would default.
There are a lot of allies that the counties have, the forest counties have. They have the AFRC, which is the American Forest Resources Council, and a number of organizations that lobby together. So, I'm anxious to see how that turns out.
Well, that's good. And Ray, this is great that you've got this National Constitutional Sheriffs Association. Anyone can go on, and of course it's NCSA, the numeral 1.org.
And that's separate from the National or the Constitutional Sheriffs and Police Officers Association. Is that a different organization?
Totally different.
Oh, okay.
Totally and completely different. Okay, great. Well, I like what I see there, and of course you have a conference coming up in August down in Reno. Tell us about that.
Well, we're going to be focusing on the issues that we've been discussing today. We've got a couple of great attorneys who are very versed in these areas. Carson Tucker has been assisting the sheriffs over in the east regarding the unconstitutional legislation and the stripping of the powers of the sheriff's office. And, you know, I want people to understand, if we lose that representative office where they're accountable to the people, we end up with an administrative law enforcement that is not accountable to the people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, the nearest area I can think of that has that, it's an appointed sheriff. It's in King County in Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then you have Connecticut with no sheriffs at all.
Right.
Yeah, well, and there was even some talk about combining sheriff districts. And you mentioned, we were talking about, I don't know, we're talking about right before the break, was possibly Josephine and Curry
County creating a single law enforcement district. Is that what you were talking about?
Well, that's part of what's being discussed.
I mean, it's being discussed,
basically,
yeah.
The agreement merges Coos, Curry, and Josephine, all three within the proclamation, with none of the county commissioners endorsing it, and they fall under the City of Medford Police Department. And there's a question there about how can you possibly put a constitutional office under the supervision of an administrative office? You can't.
I'm not sure how Medford Police Department fell into this. You're talking about Curry, Coos, and Josephine County, but how did Medford Police get involved?
Well, I don't know. You know, this is some of what's being discussed. I guess Jackson is in there somehow too, because if Curry, Coos, and Josephine fall, the next soluble county is the one that's going to be the one to take it over.
Well, that's being worked on, and what would happen is a couple of scenarios. One, a county would revert back to its original or prior boundary.
There you go.
And that included Josephine County, and actually included parts of Klamath County as well. And so it'd be a count. And then actually at one point there were like 8 counties under one county, and that was Benton County. That was way back. But you're right, there are proposals to, if these counties do go defunct, they then fall back under the old boundary, and then they would assume, the big question is, what tax base do they assume? And the folks in Jackson County have said, well, you'll assume ours, because we're not going to carry the load for those tax bases for those other counties.
Well,
so that's in discussion.
Bill too, if there's not enough funds to cover it, they can impose a tax.
That's right,
and we talked about that. And that's the danger in Josephine County. Yeah.
And they could make an emergency. Has that? I don't think that bill has passed yet. So.
No, it hasn't. It's still in discussion.
Yeah. So.
Well,
we
Rae,
would love to come back and talk more. There's so much more going on.
Yeah,
sure.
Well, it's good, and I appreciate what you're doing, and this is a great tool, and we want to talk some more about that. And wow, opening our eyes on all kinds of things. So, Rae, thank you again for your time today, and it's www.ncsa1.org. That's the number 1.org, and Rae Copitka with the National Constitutional Sheriff's Association. Rae, thanks so much for being on our show this morning, and we'll talk to you soon. How's that?
That'd be great, and we'll have Loma on with us.
Okay, fantastic.
Thank you.
Great. Take care, guys.
Okay, we'll see you later. Wow, that's really something.
Yeah.
Really something. I mean, really something. So, all right, quick little break. We'll be right back, finishing the top of the hour. KCMX, News Talk 880.
I'm speechless.
Follow along on Facebook, Twitter. We're all there. Hit our website up. You can email us.
There's a great word, hubris.
Hubris. That's right.
Look that up, hubris. We'll be right back right after this message. There is a degree of
limitation, maybe,
factuality, and there was a report, a longstanding report about what counties can do for emergency issues and so forth. But once again, it's not quite as simple as it's portrayed to be, and you can get in all kinds of legal wrangling. And I wanted to bring out the point that it was a United States senator that was talking about it's been taking the state of Alaska to impose their rights, even under the federal statutes. to
10 years.
10 years, and then it's also been taking them longer to get the federal government to clean up the federal government's sites for exploration of oil and gas that they didn't clean up 50 years ago.
It's absolutely disgusting.
And the senator said, well, why would it be our responsibility to clean up your site? You make it a requirement for everybody else to do it, but you don't. I mean, it was a very revealing conversation between all of these senators talking about, and the governor she mentioned of Utah and the governor of Idaho, I believe, were in the same hearing I was at, and we talked and visited about the impacts and different issues and the fights that we have trying to push our rights. And she's right about a number of court decisions, but it took 5 years, even under a court-ordered arbitration, and we still couldn't log because of the legal challenges. And so we fall back to the issue of the Equal Access to Justice Act that basically incentivizes anybody to challenge anything going on as far as natural resources. And so there's this absolutist, extremist view in relationship to any forest management issues. And it becomes highly emotional, lots of misinformation that is out there that really hamstrings and has essentially destroyed a major component of the industrial infrastructure for the state of Oregon. And we could be doing far better in managing our forests, and we're looking at a terrible fire year.
Oh gosh, I do not want to get into fire dangers.
Well, I mean, a lot of communities are doing a lot. They're trying to make themselves fire safe and clear debris and brush and trying to do all those things. But there's a lot more to that than meets the eye. When you have trees that are 5 and 6 and 10 times the amount that should be on the land that could support them, you're going to get trees that aren't getting the nutrients, therefore can't be healthy enough to stave off infections. But I mean, bug infestations, not infections.
Right.
And that's what's happening. It's a huge tracts of land over by Klamath County that were declared as emergency.
I mean, the fact of the matter is, we've had foresters and experts tell us that a good, healthy forest has 175 trees per acre.
Right.
Okay, and right now Jackson County has between 750 and 850, some even 1,000 trees per acre.
Yeah, and
so if you were to up it to 200 trees per acre and come down on the conservative side to 750, look at the difference. It's 3 times.
Our forests,
4 times.
Yeah, our forests, we've been hamstrung, and I've actually heard environmentalists say that we would rather have it burned than have it be logged.
Horrible, horrible.
So